Hi, everyone. My name is Joseph Kitchen. I am the president of the Young Democrats of Maryland. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to host a webinar online via Zoom with two leaders of the Democratic Party, two young leaders of the Democratic Party that I've known for a long time. Joshua Harris Till, who's the president of the Young Democrats of America, and John Verdejo, who is the Democratic National Committee man from North Carolina. In a moment, we're gonna switch over and we're gonna show you the video of that webinar. But as you watch the webinar, if you have any questions, if you have any concerns, or if you have any thoughts, jot them down. Be sure to send me an email or to hit me up via social media. We definitely would love to help you. This conversation is built on understanding the role of the Democratic National Committee and how you can be involved. And this evening we are here. We're going to talk about the Democratic National Committee, the Democratic Party's Democratic National Committee. For those who may not know me, my name is Joseph Kitchen. I am president of the Young Democrats of Maryland, and we have been hosting over the last year. We have been hosting a number of in-person and virtual conversations about how the Democratic Party works. One of the things that you hear, and both of my brothers who are on the webinar with me today, they'll probably also be able to echo this. One of the things that you hear as a young Democrat leader a lot of times is frustration with the party and the process and how the party is governed. And a lot of that frustration, unfortunately, comes from the fact that people are not informed about how to be involved and engaged in the party. And so one of the things that YDM has been working really hard to do over the last 2 years is to expose and to talk about like how the party works, how the party structures work. One of the reasons why a lot of new voices are not included in the party is because a lot of times new voices don't know how the party rules work, and that's the quickest way to exclude people from the party. And we want to make sure that we include more voices, more young people, more different voices in the conversation, and the best way to do that by talking about how you get involved. So that's why I am thrilled to welcome to talk with me and to talk with everyone here, two people that I've known for a good while. Before I introduce them, I do want to say that you can feel free to, as we go through this, add questions to the chat box. We will definitely be able to see them, and I'll try to respond to them as we go on. So I want to introduce our two guests today. They are both young Dems, young Dem leaders, young Dem activists for a long time that I've known. First, John Verdejo, who is from North Carolina. Well, he lives in North Carolina now. Once he starts speaking, you'll quickly realize he is not from North Carolina. But he lives in North Carolina right now. He is the DNC man from North Carolina. He was just reelected to a second term on the DNC from North Carolina. And before that, he represented the Young Democrats of North Carolina on the National Committee of the Young Democrats of America. The second person I want to introduce is our national president, the Young Democrats of America's national president, Josh Harris Till, who is from Oklahoma, or lives in Oklahoma now. I don't think you're actually from there, but he lives there now. And he also, before becoming YDA's national president last summer, he was president of the Oklahoma Young Democrats. So I want to welcome both of them. I want to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves. I'm going to start with you, John.
Well, good evening, Joseph. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity. Good times to be had, right, in the Democratic Party. Again, my name is John Verdejo. I am a member of the Democratic National Committee. As Joseph said, I was just reelected maybe about a month ago, going on my second term after we have the national convention in Wisconsin, maybe, because we don't know if that's going to happen or what. We may be sitting at home.
Right.
You do the whole convention thing at home.
Right.
So, but no, beyond that, I'm just here. I'm just glad for the opportunity, answer any questions you may have, and let's get started.
All right, and Josh, you want to take a quick moment to introduce yourself?
Definitely. Like you said, Joshua Harris Till, now the national president of the Young Dems, before Oklahoma president. Um, I, the national president of Young Dems actually sits on the executive committee. So there is the DNC body, and then there's the executive committee, which is a little bit smaller, about 60 or so people, which Tom Perez has kind of a closer relationship, a little more unique than when you're in the big room, like John will tell you, where there's like all of us sitting there, and it's huge. You're so far away, you know what I mean? You don't really get to kind of feel that connection. He moves around a lot throughout the caucuses and stuff, but it's been definitely interesting to be on there and see the other people who are on that committee. And so I'm here available to answer any questions that you guys got, and excited to join Joseph and the Young Democrats of Maryland, the great work they're doing.
All right, so we're gonna break this conversation into two. We're gonna start with John and Josh, and then they're gonna just talk about their experiences being on the DNC, and then we're going to talk about Maryland's process. So as people will know, or hopefully you know when you registered and signed up for this, Maryland is actually getting ready to elect our DNC members. So North Carolina has already elected theirs. Maryland is getting ready to elect our DNC members next month. We were actually supposed to do that this month, but COVID is here and causing all types of problems, but we are actually going to do that next month via Zoom. And so we're going to see how that works, but we're going to pray for our party chair because we're going to see how that works. So the first thing I wanted to ask, though, and I'll start with you, Josh, what made you decide that you wanted to run for president of the Young Democrats of America?
That's a great question, because I didn't for a very long time. I tried to avoid it. But the reality was that this organization had invested a lot in me as a person. So the connections that I've made to people in this organization, the relationships I now have with people across the country, really everything that they had taken time and invested in me. And this organization has seen me go through a lot of really hard things. There was a shooting where I lost my sister and my little brothers who were injured. That happened the same week of the San Antonio convention. My mom was diagnosed with cancer just before the LA convention, and I unfortunately lost her the week before the Dallas convention. And so many very traumatic moments for me had been wrapped around or closely related to the timelines of meetings that I've had in this organization. And so many of the members have bypassed all of, the play politics and the fun stuff that we have to just check on me as a person. And so there was, a lot of people who approached me like, we think that you would be a great person to lead this organization. So because they believed in me so much and because this organization had invested in me so much, it seemed like the right thing to do. And I'm honored to hold this title.
Oh, cool. Well, I'm honored to work with you. I worked with you before you became president. I've worked with you since you've been president. And I will tell people who are listening, neither one of those times have been easy for you, but you definitely have been graceful the entire time. John, you've been out of Young Democrats for a little while, and then you stepped up and ran for the National Committee in North Carolina. What made you decide to do that?
In a word, frustration. I've been involved in North Carolina politics for a long time and national as well. But one question I always had is, what does a DNC member do? What is their purpose? Why are we here? Why am I electing them every 4 years? They come, they get around to want to do the elections. Then after that, I never saw them again, the DC in North Carolina. All respect due. So I decided, you know what? I think I have enough support. I think I have enough love from the folks who, members of the SEC, State Executive Committee that we have in North Carolina, that if I put my name out there, that perhaps I may have a chance of doing it. And lo and behold, it worked. It worked out. Now I'm going on my second term. I just want a little bit more transparency, really. I'm one of those ones where I believe if, especially if you're a member of the DNC or any position for that matter in the party, that you need to let the people that you serve know exactly what's going on. And I just felt that, at that time, we never knew what a DNC member was doing. We never received any news, so on and so forth. And one of my missions was, and I've told folks this first go around, that if you elect me, I was going to bombard you. I was going to bombard you with emails, social media feeds, what have you, to let you know exactly what's going on at the national level. And thirdly, this is more personal. I just wanted people who look like me, who spoke like me, who had my same attitude like me. And what I saw was quite different, so I just took a shot at it, swung for the fences, and, here I am.
Well, and on that note, so I have a friend, a good friend who lives here in Maryland. A lot of times she'll always ask me, well, what do those people do? Like, it just random stuff like this.
Right.
Here in Maryland, our local central committee, our state central committee, or even a lot of times when we're talking about the DNC, she will always ask me, well, what do they do? Like, what does the DNC members do? What does the DNC do? So, John, what do y'all do? What's the purpose of what's the role of the DNC member?
I'll take it away, Josh, or I can start. On paper, what a DNC member.
On paper, okay, you better. Yes.
On paper, what a DNC member is tasked to do is basically help form the platform of the Democratic Party. All right, is represent their state, represent their community, voice the concerns of the folks that might have elected them, and just take it to the national party. Speaking from personal aspect, that is true, but also what you're supposed to do as a DNC member is, use your, just listen to those folks that elected you. All right. You're their representative. You represent your state. Voice their concerns back to the national party and fight like hell for them. Okay. Because at the end of the day, if just like any congressperson, or if you're a mayor or a city council, what have you, at the end of the day, you are responsible for those folks. And that's kind of how I take it. And that's what it's always been.
What Josh, what do you think? Like you don't represent the state like John does. You represent all of the young people in the party. So what do you think how do you think your role is on the DNC?
So I don't want to, I don't have that much clout. I represent, but college Dems are also on the DNC as well as the high school Dems. So we try to come together as often as possible. For me, I always saw the DNC as, that connection between politics and the party side to the people. Since being elected, I would say that it's really more just like a glorified central committee meeting. So if you state, then this is the same thing. It's just a lot bigger, and then you get a couple higher name politicians to stop by. But I mean, I think more so than that, like John was saying, is to represent our community. So everything that I do there, I'm youth focused on. I want to make sure that young people are represented and their voices are heard, especially when it comes to the executive committee, where we have a little bit more availability to speak. Me and Michaela Guido, she's the president of College Dems. We actually just had a conversation earlier today. We bounce each other about ideas off of each other. We try to support each other's ideas, and we try to work together and move together, because we know the unfortunate reality is that a lot of these people don't necessarily see young people and have the respect for young people that they should. And so we have to be an example for why, one, they should take us seriously, two, why they should invest in us, and three, why it's so important for us to have a seat at the table. I think that a lot of politicians and campaigns are realizing it now, especially as politics moves to a more digital platform. They're seeing, well, maybe we need to get some of these young people involved, because we can't do the things that we're used to doing.
Right.
And so with the DNC, I take my job to be always, making sure that young people got a seat at the table. And the reality is I've been blessed with numbers of opportunities that I've got to transition and push to people around the country, young people around the country, New York Times interviews, CNN interviews, like real leadership. Like I could take them and be on TV all the time, or I could give them to my organization so that we can really build this. And so doing that at the DNC, doing that in regular life, I think that's the kind of the clout, if any, that comes with having a DNC seat, is you using that to give back to the people.
Right. And so, so John, you know, you've been on the DNC now 4 years so far. You've been there for some time now. What do you, in your tenure being on the DNC, what would you say has been the time where you have been, what has been your biggest frustration since being on the DNC?
Yeah, I think it's, with some folks, is the inability of some folks to evolve. Meaning, you know, there are some folks there that have been there for so long that that's all they know. That, you know, they have like this, you know, 2020, you know, vision where this is all they know and that's that. Where you know, the party has changed, not even in the last 4 years, it's changed in the last 2 years. So much has happened. But yet, you know, we've had folks there, and all respect due, because you know, institutional knowledge matters. But at the same time, you have to change, you have to evolve with the times, and that's always been my frustration. Also, is this? It's almost like if there's a new idea to be had, it's like trying to, I don't know, trying to steer a great big battleship. You know, it takes effort, it takes time, it takes you know, it takes a whole lot to steer a big ship. And that is a DNC where, Josh, you said something about the Central Committee. I gotta get you on this and that. Being a member of the DNC has given me a greater respect for what we do here at the state party.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm sure the same thing here in Maryland, where, you know, we often get frustrated going to these meetings, where at least at the state party, we get to argue, we get to debate, we get to present ideas, we get to present resolutions, so on and so forth. Whereas in the DNC, I'm probably gonna get in trouble for this, is live feed, what have you. Not so much. You know, it almost feel as if, you know, we go into this big room, as you spoke of, and the decisions are made. Whereas us folks coming in from the state, we're used to debates, we're used to the sitting downs, we're used to, you know, having to hash things out. That's not the case with the DNC. So, and to answer your question, Joseph, that's just been my biggest frustration, is that as good as the DNC is and everything that it does, and it does do great things, it's the want of, you know, some of these folks who've been there for so long, of seeing, yes, there is another side to this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Josh, you lead an organization. You have a seat on the DNC as virtue of being an organizational leader. What has been your biggest frustration in trying to not just represent like the constituency who put you there, but like as an organizational partner with the DNC?
Oh, well, well, if they end up watching this, my answer definitely gonna get me in trouble.
Yeah, we're already marked, man. We marked.
I haven't been there that long, so the reality is a number of my biggest frustrations, but you know, they're really all the same frustration, is that the DNC looks at YDA and its affiliate status as not really something that they have to be heavily invested in. And so there's so many different opportunities that college DMs has access to that we don't have access to. And I'm not trying to take away their access, but I'm trying to say, if y'all can make it happen for them, you should be able to do the same for us, especially because we're a larger organization and we have to do our own fundraising. And so, you know, I was down at their last convention in New Orleans, and they had, you know, Stacey Abrams, and they had Congresswoman Maxine. You know, they had Congresswoman Schakowsky was there. They had Michael Blake from DNC. They brought in all of these different people, and it was just like, you know, talking with them, and they were talking about how the DNC helped them like set everything up. And I'm like, what is that like?
Right.
Because we get on the phone and we use our personal connections, and we're calling all of these different people to try to get them to show up for a meeting. And, you know, it works, but it's like the time, effort, and energy that goes into it that we have to put in to even be able to get to the right person to be able to make an ask, whereas the DNC could connect us immediately. So that's, you know, like, it's making it harder for us to just be able to be an effective organization and focus on other things because we're trying to play politics and mate the right people and smooth with the right people in order to make things happen. And then, on that same front, the investment in college gyms, I won't speak for college gyms, but I would say if I was in charge of college gyms looks at the same issue in terms of getting investment. It's one thing to say that you're invested in young people. It's another thing for my bank account to say that you're invested in young people. And we hear about this money that they're raising. We hear about this money that they're giving the states and different things that they're doing, but it's like we ain't seeing the dollars on our end. And so start investing in young people and you'll see your money go exponentially further because we know how to spread $10 across a week. You know what I mean? We know how to make $100 event, that 250 people are going to come to. And so it's about putting our dollars in places where they need to go. And, they are making progress. And this is what I've been told before. So I don't know how bad it used to be. And they are doing well in terms of like communication, but we still have a long way to go in terms of a really great partnership with the DNC.
That's always my thing. One of the things that I hear Joe Biden talk about a lot is, and I don't think this came from him, but I know he uses the phrase a lot, is that budgets are value statements. And so, don't tell me how much you value a constituency. This is how I take his statement and turn it into my statement. Don't tell me how much you value a constituency. Show me how much you've invested in that constituency. And that comes with turning out young voters, turning out Black voters, turning out Black women, turning out all these constituencies that make up the base of the party. And it's good to have policies that speak to us, but we also need the investment in order to allow groups like YDA, to allow groups like college Dems to actually go out and tell other young people, this is our college plan. This is the plan that we're trying to enact if we elect Vice President Biden to the White House, because it doesn't make any difference if he has a good college plan if we don't tell anybody else about it. he just has a good plan. And you see how budget negative things blow up on the internet, but it's those positive things that you just gotta it does take somebody knocking on the door, man, let me tell you about this plan. But I do want to also just take a moment to let John to ask John about you've been there for a minute, you've had some frustrations, but what has been what has been an experience on the DNC where you just thought this is a good idea, this is a good plan, I'm happy that I'm here, I'm happy to see this happen?
I would have to say, in the 4 years that I've been there, I have to give props due, and there is, they really, really stepped up their social media games.
Mm-hmm.
All right, because I was there in the dark ages, and the Republicans were, it was pretty bad. And the Republicans were, was dragging us through the mud as far as social media is concerned. But now I think we're in a better place as far as that's concerned. So, shout out to the DNC, Tom Perez, and all them folks for making it happen. From a personal standpoint, I actually kind of wrote this down. My biggest pride. Well, let me rephrase this. My biggest pride from the DNC has been, I mentioned transparency. I had to mention that I was the first Latino to be elected to the DNC here from North Carolina. So that's something that they can't necessarily take from me.
Mm-hmm.
And just being thanked by my critics. Mm-hmm. And I say that because, when I was elected again, I try to be as open and as transparent as possible. Attend every meeting, let them know exactly what's going on with the DNC, so on and so forth. And it's gotten to where, I go to a meeting and they're like, what, John, salute. Thank you for, thanks for doing this. I feel like I'm a part of this, organization. Still plenty of work to do, but, the DNC is definitely in a better place.
Yeah. Josh, you've been there less time than John has, just less than 2 years. what, a year and a half now. Or not, yeah, a year and a half now.
Not even a year yet.
Not even a year yet. It just you see you see when you're in the struggle, it just seemed like you're just always there. But what has been, and a part of you being there has been a pandemic. But what has been
Oh, that's right.
what has been the pride that you've seen come out of the DNC in your service so far?
Well, I think there's two things that really stand out. One, Governor Walters is the former governor of Oklahoma, and there are people in Oklahoma, you know, that who support me in anything I do, who are like just as pumped, you know what I mean, about me being here. They put it in the paper and stuff like that, and like all of that was cool. But you know, back home, Governor Walters during one of our events gave me a shout out at the event. Was like, you know, I want y'all to recognize like Josh is the first Black man to represent this organization. He sits on the executive committee. Like Oklahoma has more representation because of him. And so to say that in a room of like 500 people back home and have that kind of recognition was just really huge for me. The second thing is at the DNC, which probably think about more and more of the stuff I'm probably not supposed to say on live, but we here now. So
right, man. I'm going down with you.
Right. You know, our first DNC meeting, I invited a lot of the officers to come to, was in San Francisco. And what you find out is like when you have this badge, you know what I mean? The badge gets you in certain places. And so what I started doing was just giving my badge to my other officers who were with me so they can get in. So there was like a Pelosi event, and you know, you got to have a badge to get in. So I gave, you know, my officer the badge, and I was like thinking maybe I can finesse my way in because I know somebody, and it didn't work. So I didn't get in, but my people got in. And then, you know, because they give you a new badge every day, the next day I was able to like go downstairs, hand the badge off, take somebody upstairs, take the badge off of them, go back downstairs. And I did that like 8 times, but we got all of the young Dems who was with us into the event, you know, and there was food and there was drinks, you know what I mean? There was people around so they could network. And I mean, like, for me, like, that's huge because it's nothing if I got a seat at the table if I can't bring my people with me.
Yeah.
So that's been my highlight of it, just getting to share this world with other young people because they view I understand what the DNC is. I'm glad to be a part of the DNC, but I've never idolized the DNC. It's never been like a lifelong dream to be a DNC member, but there are people who feel that way. And so being able to make that opportunity for them, being able to get them into the debates because of my DNC status, like I went to the one in Houston and it was lit. And I mean, I'm sure all of them were, but it was like I can go or I can make space for other people to go. And so I've got to bring so many different people into these, you know, closed off events, unfortunately. And then we know why they closed off, you know, but because they're closed off, it's harder for people to get in. So being able to make that opportunity for folks has just been great. I love it.
Well, I want to thank y'all for joining us. I want to respect your time. I know I was talking to John before we went live. John said he is zoomed out, probably like the rest of the world. Like this pandemic has just like made Zoom like our best friend. But I want to thank y'all for joining us, having this conversation. We're gonna switch over and start talking about like what the DNC process looks like here in Maryland and how people can get involved in that. Y'all are welcome to stay, or you can just go and do whatever else you got to do. But that's what we're gonna switch over to. But I appreciate you for joining me. I appreciate being able to put out a call and you immediately say, "Yep, I'll do that." I definitely appreciate it.
Joseph, thank you. Salute to you all. Be good, be safe, and God bless, man.
Say the same thing. I'm gonna jump off of here. I actually got another Zoom scheduled after this one, so I'm gonna take as much of a break as I can.
Yeah.
But always appreciate, you know, you as a person. I always appreciate the work that you're doing. Anytime you call me, if I can be there, I'm gonna be there. You know that.
I definitely appreciate that. All right, so let's transition to where we are next here. So as I said before, we are going to transition into talking about how this works here in Maryland and how people in Maryland who are interested and getting involved can get involved. So you should be able to see on your screen there quick slideshow that we're gonna jump into doing. And as we go through this, feel free again to hit the Q&A button more than the chat box. The Q&A button is a lot easier for me to see, and I'll try to answer your questions. So what is a DNC member and how do you become one? So first things first, DNC members are all types of different people. They are elected officials, they are party activists, they are teachers, they are all types of different people. But in short, DNC members are, for the most part, elected members of the national board for the Democratic Party. So that is what they are, and kind of what they, and some of the main things that they do, some of the main priorities that DNC members do is they play a huge role in deciding the rules, parameters, and timeline of the nominating process for the President of the United States. So I do want to bust some myths, though. I do want to point out some myths. So some of the myths out there: the DNC does not decide which state votes win. Those are all decided by state laws in various different states. What the DNC, how the DNC influences that process is the DNC allocates delegates to states, and so the DNC can reward delegates to states for adhering to their time frame, or they can actually punish states with delegates for violating their timeline. If you remember back in 2008, if you were old enough to remember back in 2008, Florida and Michigan actually jumped ahead of the DNC process, and they ended up losing all of their delegates to the convention. Now they got them back eventually, but they were at risk of losing all of their delegates to the convention. But then if you also remember, I want to say in 2008, or maybe it was 2012, Maryland was a part of a regional primary with DC and Virginia and some other states. And so as such, which is what the DNC was trying to do, which get states to cluster into regional primaries. And as such, the DNC gave us some bonus delegates. So that is how the DNC influences that process, but some states go it their own way. The people in New Hampshire and Iowa have decided that they don't care what the DNC says, they are going to be first. And so one time the Iowa Secretary of State said that if he had to move his primary to the previous year, he would do it in order to be first. So they have some influence over that. In addition to that, they also, as we saw play out this year, they have some role and influence in deciding debates and policies and procedures around debates and how they play out. They also elect the DNC chair, who has a lot of authority in those areas. And so that's kind of what the main role of DNC members are. So today we're going to talk about how you become one here in Maryland. Each state does it kind of differently, but we're going to talk about how it works here in Maryland. So I am, for those of you who may know, I am an educator. So I'm always about talking about vocabulary, when vocabulary is necessary. So these are some important vocabulary because I feel like I'm going to be referring to these phrases as we talk, and I want to make sure that you have an understanding what they mean. So the DNC, as I'm going to refer to it, represents the Democratic National Committee. It is not the same as the Democratic National Convention. So the Democratic National Convention only meets every 4 years. We're getting ready to have one in some form in August, whether we're going to be in Milwaukee or in our living room. We don't know yet, but we're getting ready to have one. And that only meets, so the highest making decision body in the Democratic Party is the Democratic National Convention, but it only meets every 4 years. In between those 4-year meetings, the Democratic National Committee has authority to act on behalf of the National Convention in a various range of areas, pretty much any area, really. And so that is what the DNC stands for. I do want to point out, because people, I hear this a lot of times too, well, the DNC picked this person or the DNC picked this person. Listen, the DNC has over 400 members and they don't pick anybody but themselves, really. The people who choose who our nominee is, the people who choose how our platform is designed and things like that are Democrats. They're Democratic voters. And it actually is kind of insulting to imply that Democratic voters were forced to pick somebody. We have a process to play in our primaries and in our elections to win an argument, but we also have a process to realize that when we lost an argument, that we either need to adjust or we need to adjust our arguing points or respect the fact that one side has won. And so that's just a big thing for me. The second vocabulary word here is the DSCC. So that refers to the Democratic State Central Committee. And so that is the body that meets twice a year here in Maryland. And it is our party's highest, not highest, excuse me. It is our, it is. It's our party's highest decision-making authority. So it is our party's highest decision-making authority. It only meets twice a year. And it connects to the Democratic Central Committees. So each county has a local central committee. Those members feed into the Democratic State Central Committee. So those are some vocabulary words. So if I refer to DNC, DSCC, and DCC, that's just, I want to make sure you have a clear understanding about what I'm talking about, what body I'm talking about. So how many members of the DNC does Maryland have? So Maryland has 4 DNC members. So we have 4 DNC members. We have 2 males and 2 females. We also have 2 automatic members of the DNC. Those members are our chair and our first vice chair. Now, those are Maryland's members. I do want to point out, though, that we do also have some other DNC members. Well, we don't, but there are also other DNC members who live in Maryland. So there are some people who live in the state of Maryland who occupy what are called at-large seats. So they are appointed by the DNC chair or are elected by the DNC to these at-large seats. And it's because they hold other influential roles. They can be like an international union president, or they could be an influential activist or party elder. So some of those are DNC members, and they also live in Maryland. But in essence, we have 6 DNC members, 4 DNC members, 6 total DNC votes. So our current DNC members are our chair, Yvette Lewis, who lives here in Prince George's County. If you've not met Yvette, you should meet Yvette. I will tell you probably will not meet a more classier woman, who is hilarious at the same time. And then Senator Corey McCray, who is from Baltimore City. He is our first vice chair. In Maryland, as is in other parts of the country, the chair and the first vice chair must be of opposite genders. And then we have 4 DNC members: Belle Leon Hong from Montgomery County, Cheryl Landis from Prince George's County, Greg Paccarell from Western Maryland, and Glenn Middleton from Baltimore City. So that is our delegation to the DNC. I do want to point out, though, real quick, that of these members here, so we're going to elect our 4 DNC members in June. Of these members here, of the DNC members here, all of them are running for re-election, with the exception of Greg Paccarell. Greg, who has represented Maryland on the DNC for a long time, has decided to step down when his term is up. And so there definitely will be at least 1 new member in the Maryland delegation. So what is the term of a Maryland DNC member? So DNC members from Maryland serve a term of 4 years in office. They are elected. They will be elected at our June meeting of the Democratic State Central Committee, and they will assume office at the conclusion of the Democratic National Convention. So the current members are going to serve through the National Convention, and then the new members definitely one new member if there and more if there are more will take their offices after the Democratic National Convention. I do want to point out that while there's only one vacancy in our Maryland delegation, all of the seats are up for election, and so anybody can run for any seat. So what do Maryland DNC members do outside of the DNC? You listen to Josh, you listen to John talk a lot about what they do inside the DNC. Outside of the DNC, the Maryland DNC members serve on the executive committee of the Maryland Democratic Party. Additionally, some serve on standing and select party committees. So Belle serves on the Affirmative Action Committee with me. I will tell you, she is hilarious on the Affirmative Action Committee, and she also has just a wealth of knowledge that she brings and a passion that she brings to her role. Cheryl Landis, the other DNC woman, is the chair of the Prince George's County Democratic Central Committee, so she's very active there. Greg Peccarel serves as the parliamentarian of the party, and he also serves on the Rules Committee. So that is what they all do. Glenn Middleton is very active with our labor groups and labor constituencies. So they serve other roles, and they also help do other things that the chair may ask them to do. So some of these people probably do a lot other stuff that I just don't even know what they do. So how are they elected? Each county in Maryland and Baltimore City has a local Democratic Central Committee. Every member of the DCC is also a member of this Democratic State Central Committee. So when you go to your local county Democratic Central Committee meeting, all of those members are members of the state party's Democratic State Central Committee. The DSCC is the body that elects the 4 members of the Democratic National Committee. So a lot of times when people come and say, well, you know, those people are there because somebody chose them to be there. They're right. Someone did choose them to be there. Those DSCC members chose them to be there. And those DSCC members are there because Democratic voters put them there. So they are elected. Somebody did choose them. And you want to make sure that if that you are involved in doing the choosing, if you want to make sure that your voice is heard. So this is how the DNC members get elected. Democratic voters elect DCC members during our gubernatorial primaries in Maryland. So every 4 years, we elect the members of our local Democratic Central Committees. Those Democratic Central Committees members serve on the DSCC. And by virtue of serving on the DSCC members elect the party chair and all party officers, including the DNC members. Those DNC members elect the DNC leaders, who, such as the party chair. So that is how the succession of our election works. That's how people get elected to office. So when you get here, when we show up in June to our virtual Zoom meeting, which I think I'm just so looking forward to because I just think it's going to be hilarious. When we show up to our virtual Zoom meeting, there are going to be votes. The DSCC uses a weighted vote system to allow for up to 1,000 votes. There are not 1,000 members of the DSCC, but there will be 1,000 votes cast on the DSCC. Those 1,000 votes are divided by jurisdiction based on population and Democratic vote turnout for our gubernatorial election, our most recent gubernatorial election, and our 2 most recent presidential elections. So in order to have a big vote population, which will allow, so from Prince George's County, a lot of times the Prince George's County members are allowed to cast multiple votes. But then some smaller jurisdictions sometimes are only allowed to cast 1 vote. And that has to do with Prince George's County being a larger county, so they have votes because of population. And then also Prince George's County is, if not it is one of the highest performing jurisdictions for the Democratic Party for both in gubernatorial elections and in presidential elections. So even though Montgomery County actually is a bigger county population-wise, Prince George's County oftentimes does outperform Montgomery County when it comes to Democratic votes for governor and president. So that's how the 1,000 votes are divided. So if you are going to run for the DNC, you want to make sure you have a clear understanding how many votes each person from each county has. Because if you go to Prince George's County and you're running for the DNC and you say, hey, I would love for you to vote for me, I would love your support, and they say, well, you know, I'm already voting for X person, but you find out that they have 4 votes, you'd be like, well, I understand that. I definitely appreciate that. I understand if you're going to vote for X person, but is it possible that you can give me at least 1 of your votes? Or is it possible that you can give me at least 2 of your votes? That way they can still honor their commitment to vote for who they said they were going to vote for, but they can throw you a bone and give you 1 of their vote or something like that, that will allow you to rack up other votes throughout the state. The larger your jurisdiction is, equals more votes for your members. The better performance of your Democratic candidates for president equals more votes for your members. Up to 50% of the votes comes from that section. The better performance of Democratic candidates for governor equals more votes for your members. This is so important because this is a way to get Democratic Central Committee members in order to help boost up their Democratic performance. So if you are a member of the Democratic Central Committee, you want to have a better say in let me tell you something, in Prince George's County, we believe we need to have a strong say in the direction of our party. But that means that the party can say to us, good, you want to have a better say in the direction of the party, then you go out there and you boost up the Democratic performance in your county so that you can boost up your performance votes on this Central Committee. That is the way that you have a better say in the party. That's what we should be doing. That's what I know the current Central Committee members have been working on doing. And so that's how you end up boosting your performance. So who can be a DNC member? Anybody can be a DNC member. However, no more than 2 can be or identify as male, or no more than 2 can be or identify as female. There is, the DNC recently just added a rule that allows people who identify as non-binary to also run for these seats as well. Additionally, no more than 1 can come from any region, any of the 7 regions in the Maryland Democratic Party. So there are 4 members. You can't have more than 1 from each region. The Maryland Democratic Party has 7 regions. So they are over here. They include Region 1, which is Western Maryland, Region 2, which is Southern Maryland, Region 3, which is the Eastern Shore, Region 4, which is Baltimore County, Region 5, which is Baltimore City, Region 6, which is Montgomery County, and Region 7, which is Prince George's County. So as you can see, the bigger counties actually occupy their own regions, and then the other parts of the state are combined into regions. So no more than 1 person can occupy, can be elected from each region. Now this is also a strategy thing, because and I will double check to make sure I am right about this, but the last time we did this election, the male candidates were elected first. And so if you elect the DNC man members first, and the way that it goes, Glenn Middleton is from Baltimore City. Well, if there is a woman from Baltimore City who is also running for the DNC, and Glenn Middleton is running for the DNC from Baltimore City, if he wins, that means that the woman from Baltimore City will not be able to be elected because she is from the same region as he is. So this is why you do want to coordinate. You do want to talk to people. You don't want to be jumping out there and doing all this work, and then you come to find out that like someone else is running from your region, and not only that, but they're running unopposed, and their election is before yours, because now you actually kind of have to like defeat them too, in order to be able to even run. So you do, but this regional balance is really important. It comes into making sure that our party leaders look like Maryland. And so if all of the party leaders come from Prince George's County, which as a Prince Georgian, I will tell you, we don't have no problem with, but if all the party leaders come from Prince George's County, then we're not, that the party leadership is not representing the state. And so we want to make sure that we do provide an opportunity for other constituencies to be represented. So now you've heard all of those things, you want to run, what should you do? Well, you should do a couple of things. First, you should reach out to the incumbent members, even the ones that are running. If you want to run, you should talk to them. I'm a strong believer that you just don't come run for nobody's seat and not have a conversation with them, because one, they may decide, well, you know what, you're going to run against me. I like you, and so I won't run. Or you're going to run against me, and I just don't feel like doing all that campaign work, so I'm not going to run. Or let me tell you why I'm running again, and let me see if we can work together somehow, even if you lose. And so you do want to reach out to the incumbent DNC members, because if you run and you lose, they won, and they can probably still help you. They can probably help you still be connected to what you say you want to do. And then talk to party leaders and elders. This includes elected officials. Elected officials, party leaders, elders, they have a huge influence on our party. You want to talk to them. You want to let your local elected officials and stuff know that this is the seat that you're running for, and ask them for their support. You definitely want to talk to your family. I think that if you talk to Belle, if you talk to Cheryl, if you talk to Yvette, if you talk to any of the members, you will quickly find out that some things that you might not know. One, the Democratic Party does not pay for your transportation or lodging. So you got to pay for these things yourself. It's expensive. Two, it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And so you want to make sure your family is okay with that, so you can do your job very well. After you do all of that, complete the application online at the party's website. We put a tiny URL link here, but it's also on the party's website at mddems.org, but we just put a tiny URL link to the actual page on the party's website that you can go to. And then after you complete the application online, set out what your campaign platform will be. Why are you running for the DNC? You listened to John, he was talking about he was frustrated with not knowing how the DNC, he was tired of just being mad at the DNC because he didn't know what was going on at the DNC, because his DNC members weren't telling him what was going on. So like, what is your campaign? Why are you running? Other than you want to be a DNC member, why are you running? How will you be there? How will you be in that seat help us? And then reach out to DSCC members. So I put a tiny URL link here to the party's website where it links to the local central committee members. You could also probably reach out to the party and ask them to send you a list of the DSCC members. But you want to reach out to the DSCC members, introduce yourself, explain to them why you're running, ask them for their support. Don't just assume that, oh, I'm young, there are some young people on the DSCC, they're gonna vote for me. No. So make sure that you do reach out to the DSCC members. And then if you are running, also let us know. Send us an email, info@ydmaryland.org. Let us know. We would love to talk with you, tell you a little bit about what things that we see, we would like to see happen at the DNC, and be there for you. I said be there for you. I didn't say endorse you, so don't be confused about that. But yeah, reach out to us. Let us know. What happens if I don't win? This is like my favorite question, because nobody never asked this question, but this is a question that people should ask. Like before I run for office or anything, I always think to myself, what I'm going to run for this office. What happens if I lose? I want to tell you, and I think that the party will tell you, we don't want you to go home. We don't want you to just disappear and go back into your little hole and be upset about it. We want you to stay involved. And so here are some ways that you can do that. Volunteer with the party or your local central committee. Join a Democratic club. Heck, join the Young Democrats. Run for the Democratic Central Committee. We're going to have elections coming up during the gubernatorial election in 2 years. Attend DNC members, attend DNC meetings. The DNC meetings are open to the public for the most part. You heard Josh talk about some things that are not open to the public. Those are normally like receptions and private briefings and stuff. But the DNC actually has a big rule on secrecy. So all of the DNC meetings are open to the public. And so you are able to attend those meetings. If you've never attended a DNC meeting and you want to be a DNC member, you should probably go. because you say like, see if this is what you really want to do, because it's not all that you see on TV. It is a lot of meetings, it is a lot of discussions, it is a lot of reading, it's a lot of work. And so if you just think that it's going to be what you see, like you getting on CNN, you're going to quickly find out that's not what it is. And then run again. If you lost and you are put in some work and you still think that you're a good fit for the DNC, run again and see how well you do after that. So what I want to do right now, let me tell you this part, and I'm going to tell you what I want to do right now. So a couple of important dates that I'm going to encourage you to add to your calendar. June 12th is the filing deadline. You file on the party's website. You have to file by 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't be late, because if you're late, you're late, and maybe that's God's way of saying you shouldn't be a DNC member. And on June 20th, we're going to have our meeting of the Maryland Democratic State Central Committee via Zoom. And I'm going to pray for Chair Lewis because it's hard controlling us in person. So Zoom could just be a whole nother thing. The good thing about Zoom, though, is you can meet people. So maybe that might be a better thing. She might not ever go back to an in-person meeting ever again. So what I want to do now, I have a couple of questions here. I want to answer these couple of questions and then talk about next steps. So I have a question here. Do people who are elected to the DNC generally come from serving on the DCC? So do they? Not all the time. The current DNC members, I believe, have all served in various capacities on the DCC. But I do, when Yvette Lewis, before she became chair, she was our chair first, and then she became our DNC woman. She had not been a DCC member. So not all the time. How do people find out how many votes each DCC has? They can reach out to the party, which we're going to talk about that in just a moment. And then, are there other opportunities? There are definitely other opportunities. As I just said, you can get involved with your local central committee, join a local Democratic club, join the Young Democrats, volunteer on a campaign, volunteer at the state party. There are a lot of other opportunities to serve in leadership at the party, and we definitely need people to step up and take those opportunities. Take on those opportunities. That's the way that we build our party. So those are the questions that I have here. I don't see any other questions, but I want to just say, all right, maybe I do see a question here. Comment. There are a lot of DNC councils that they can serve on. So that is true. So one point that Bell, who is currently on the DNC from Maryland, raised, Bell serves as chair of the National AAPI DLC at the DNC, and so which is like a caucus, and so she is the chair there. And there are opportunities for people to get involved on a lot of those constituency groups. The DNC has a number of different constituency groups, pretty much for any constituency that you can think of, the DNC has one. I have a question here. Here's a little off topic. It's definitely not off topic. How do you join YDM? You can go to our website at ydmaryland.org, or you can send me an email. I'm definitely happy to get you connected there. That is so on topic. And then, so Bell's listing some of them, but there's climate change, there's youth, which the Youth DLC, the Youth Council is not the same as YDA. The Youth Council is its own thing. Disabilities, there's rural, there's African American, there's LGBT, there's all types of different councils and that you can definitely get involved with. And so you should definitely look into those. So if you have questions, if you need help or just advice, let us know. You can send me an email. My email is joseph@ydmaryland.org. If you are having problems accessing any of the tools needed to file or to run, contact the Maryland Democratic Party's political director. Poor Michael, because I feel like I always tell people to send him an email, but he hasn't told me to stop, so I'm gonna keep doing it. His email address is mbayrd@m ddems.org. That is his email address. Send him an email. Send him an email. I do have a question asking me about the councils for the DNC. I'm happy if you are looking into getting involved with a particular council, you can email me and I definitely will help you find it. That's how the DNC works. On the Maryland Democratic Party, though, website, there is a list of Democratic clubs and DLCs that we also have here in the state as well. So that's pretty much what I wanted to have us talk about today. Belle says she will also help too. That's really what I wanted to have us talk about today. I really believe I'm a Democrat because I believe that the Democratic Party represents our best hope to move our country into a brighter future. And I think the best way that we do that is by inclusivity and including diverse perspectives and viewpoints in how we run our party. I want to make sure, though, that we also hear from people who are confused or frustrated about process, because process isn't always explained to them. So YDM is going to do our part. We are going to continuously talk about ways, how policies and procedures and how our party works in order to demystify this experience that there's some people behind a closed door creating the rules. There are some people behind a closed door. They definitely do work together, but us working together out in public, running for what we want to run for, having a vision, an idea for what we want to do, I think that is just so much, that is too powerful to overcome. You're quickly going to see when you get involved with the party, that the party isn't just a group of rich, connected people. The party is people like me. The party is people like John and Josh. The party is people like Belle. The party is people like Cheryl. It's just some of us who really are really passionate about this organizing work, and we want to move our party into a better state. But then the party does have rich, connected people too. So there are definitely both of us. And so we want to make sure that we are bringing people together. So that is our time today. I definitely appreciate you joining me. For those of you who joined us today, after this call ends, after this video ends, we are going to share out the slide deck that we used for this presentation, as well as direct links to the sites that we talked about. We are definitely going to share those things, and we'll probably also post the video of this as well. But I appreciate your time tonight. It is a little bit after 8. I wanted to stay under 8, but we went a little bit over, so it's a little bit after 8. Thank you for your attention, and have a good evening.